Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield, and we've got our final tune-up weekend before Worlds in the books, and now it's just pure conversation, speculation, discussion about the upcoming World Championships for the rest of this week, heading into next week. The World Championships start on Tuesday for round one. Remember, it's a 5-round event, and it's going to be a thriller. Josh, I'm super excited. I'm going to be in Utah. I now know that for sure. I'm going to be commentating. I'm going to be doing play-by-play for the FPO division on the Disc Golf Network. So I'm looking forward to being on the ground and following along with all of this event. I know you're going to be there as well, and we're going to have live daily recap shows that we do starting Tuesday afternoon, evening, and we hope you tune in for all of those as we kind of break down all the action. I could not be more excited.
It feels surreal that it's finally happening again. Back to all the talk, we always wondered, are we going to be having Worlds if the Europeans can't come? And whether or not you agree if we should be, you can definitely feel the Worlds hype starting up again.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to take a look at the results from a number of tournaments from this past weekend, kind of pros splitting up over various different courses and tournaments, and maybe just resting. And we're gonna have to make a decision here about whether we're gonna take this weekend's results and really overreact to it, or if we actually feel like we learned something. And that's going to be our segment here coming up in just a moment. Really quickly, let me just run down what happened this weekend. On the Disc Golf Pro Tour Silver Series at the Resistance Discs Open up in Rainier, Oregon, Adam Hammes got a 7-stroke win over Scott Withers. Really impressive performance from Hammes. Came into the final round with a small lead and then opened up the lead with 4 straight birdies early in the front 9 and pretty much just cruised in from there. Jeremy Colling in 3rd place. Nate Sexton and Tim Barham tie for 4th. In FPO, Deanne Carey got a very comfortable 15-stroke win over Brittany Quisenberry. Hope I pronounced that correctly. At the Utah Open, of course, a preview of the World's courses. They played Mulligans in round 1, and then they played the Fort in rounds 2 and 3. Emerson Keith beats Ricky Wysocki by 3 strokes to win it in MPO. Kyle Klein finishing in 3rd place, 2 strokes back of Wysocki. And Paige Pierce beat Katrina Allen by 9 strokes over 3 rounds at the Utah Open. So that's a quick look at what happened this weekend at the 2 kind of primary events in the U.S. We'll talk a little bit later about a European event this weekend, Turku in Finland. But it's a chance now, Josh, for us to dig into this segment. Overreaction or something that we actually learned. And I'm going to let you take it away. We're going to hit topics one by one, and we're going to decide whether we feel like it's an overreaction to what we saw this weekend, or if we think that this is going to give us some real insight into what happens at Worlds next week.
I think we might as well start with the elephant in the room. Emerson Keith can win Worlds. Overreaction or something we actually learned. What's your gut check, Charlie? What do you think?
I got to be honest. I think it's something we actually learned. Look, okay, I don't know what's going on with Emerson World's Whisperer Keith, but let's go back to 2019. Okay, the last time we had Worlds. Nobody was talking about Emerson Keith before Worlds. Nobody. He was a middle of the pack touring pro. And, some nice finishes here and there. I think he topped 10 at one point on one of the Pro Tour NT events. And then he comes to Worlds and he takes the lead. And he's right there all the way through the finish. Now, he didn't end up winning it, but, clearly was capable. And then, he's kind of been back to being what we thought he was this year until, boom, now it's Worlds time. And here he comes out and he beats Ricky Wysocki, shoots, tied for the hot round at Mulligans, and is incredibly sharp on the courses where it's going to matter the most. So tell me why he can't win. I honestly think we learned something. And I don't know why Emerson Keith decides that when it's Worlds time, he's going to show up and play his best disc golf of the year. But I truly, I don't think it's an overreaction. Like, based on what happened in 2019, based on what we saw this weekend, he can win Worlds.
Have you seen those Reddit posts where people say, would you rather win Worlds and never place above top 25 at any other tournament, or take second at every tournament and not win Worlds ever? Like, Emerson Keith is one of those scenarios. He's playing it out for us with how well he plays when it comes to Worlds time. I agree with you. I think Emerson Keith can win Worlds. And I want to point to something. I did a little bit of work for those who say, well, there were a lot of people not playing this weekend. And a lot of people meaning Calvin Paul Eagle. Let's not, hedge our bets here. We know who we're talking about when we say a lot of people were playing. Emerson Keith won this tournament this weekend with a 1060 average rating across these 3 rounds. I want to go back over the Elite Series events and kind of highlight some of the ratings of the winners from those rounds. Portland, Eagle averages a 1052. Masters Cup, Hamas averages a 1054. Both below Emerson Keith's rating for this weekend. OTB, Eagle's a 1068. DDO, Paul's a 1062. Jonesboro, Ricky with 1070. Texas State, Ricky 1064. Waco is Nikko at 1058. And Vegas, Eagle at 1077. All those numbers, the 1060 from Emerson Keith is a little bit on the low end. It's in the bottom half, but not by much. It's definitely in the ballpark of where people are playing to win tournaments. If you go back to the Utah Open, though, and the history of the winners there, 2019, Matt Bell wins with a 1048. This is beating Ricky Wysocki. 2018, Ricky wins it in a Pro Tour event with a 1060 rated average for the tournament. And then 2017, Ricky's 1057. So Emerson Keith over the past 3 years of Utah Open has matched what was Ricky's best win in a Pro Tour event with all the big names there. Eagle, Paul, Calvin, they were all present at the 2018 event. And Ricky wins with a 1060. So just on numbers alone, I think Emerson Keith is matching what you need at Utah courses at the Fort and Mulligans in order to win this event.
All right, now let me give you the bear case, since we both seem to think that this is legit, and I really do. But if there's a reason to be skeptical, here's what I think it could be. He was first at the tournament in strokes gained putting. He made 92% of his Circle 1X putts, 36% of his C2 putts. Elite numbers. If you're upwards of 90 in C1 and you're upwards of 35 in C2, you're having a tremendous weekend on the putting green. Now, Here's the issue, okay? He's not that good of a putter, right? Those are both well above his averages for the season. He's an 81% Circle 1 putter, 25% Circle 2 putter. So if you want to say that this is an overreaction, I think the reason to say that it is because he played above his skill set on the putting green. Now, the thing is, putting's weird, right? Putting is streaky for most players. You find the rhythm, you lose the rhythm. So if he's finding the rhythm at the right time, which clearly this is the right time, then I think, that's a reason to think that he really could outperform. But, on the other hand, if he regresses to the mean on the putting green, it probably is going to drop him those couple of strokes that he's almost certainly going to need over 5 rounds to be able to beat the 1050 crew.
I don't know if you've looked yet, but one other reason to cast doubt. What would you say is Ricky's normal weekend for putting? What would you expect Circle 1X from Ricky Wysocki?
High 80s, probably like 88%. I mean, he's a great putter.
He is.
He's maybe even 90 on the season. I up there, elite.
Completely agree. His putting this weekend, 78%.
Oof.
And only lost by 3 strokes. I mean, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean it's true. I mean, he was 35% from Circle 2. So he was, that's right there at that high water mark. But yeah, 78% is, he missed, that was, to be, for what it's worth, that's only 4 misses out of 18 C1X opportunities. However, normally that's going to be 2 or 3. And if you get 2 of those strokes back, maybe it's different outcome once there's a little more pressure down the stretch.
Possibly. And I think the question was that miss on 18 at Portland something indicative? Is this 78% also something indicative? I don't know. Ricky Wysocki could be going cold on the putter a little bit, but I think that part might be an overreaction. And that's a big reason to consider that while Emerson Keith may be able to show up and play well at Worlds, I think the rest of the top, our big four, Ricky, Paul, Calvin, Eagle, are going to bring their A game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not gonna. It's just not enough of a sample size, right? 18 chances, you miss 4. I mean, like if he misses 3, we're probably not questioning the percentage. And but that's putting. To some extent, like you don't get that many chances, right? We're not necessarily interested in season averages when it comes to one tournament. It gives us some insight potentially, but anyway, Emerson Keith, I mean, it's kind of great. Like nobody thought Emerson Keith was going to win this weekend. Come on. Nobody thought that. I don't even think I considered Emerson Keith for my podium at any point. So very interesting. Showing up, getting ready for the Worlds. So let me ask you this. Do you think it's an overreaction to say that Ricky is no longer the favorite to win the World Championships?
I think it's something that we've long been wondering and kind of got confirmed this weekend. And it's not to say that Ricky can't win. It's not to say that Ricky's not going to be in our top 5. But I think 2 months ago, Ricky in my head was a clear, I'm putting Ricky as my number 1. Even if it's, not a 50% chance of winning, even a 33% chance or whatever the betting odds are going to be, Ricky was the favorite for a while. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think there are enough instances of Ricky just not hitting what he needs, not performing to Ricky's level, the world's Ricky. We've seen what Ricky looks like when he wins world titles. He did it twice, back to back. And this isn't that Ricky. He was near the end of last season and the beginning of this season in that form. We all said it. We all said this looks like Ricky from back in the days when he won Worlds. And he's regressed since then, and he doesn't look like it anymore. And I think that's fair to say then that Ricky doesn't just win a clear favorite to win Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking now at his rated rounds, kind of dating back to the Masters Cup. And I don't necessarily see a ton of evidence that he's kind of fallen off. Here's the thing. I have to agree that it doesn't feel like Ricky is now a prohibitive favorite, but I think it's very reasonable to still say that he is the favorite. I mean, we know he plays well in these courses. He was tied for the hot round at Mulligan's. He has proven with his play over the course of the season that, he can win, right? It's not like he's just come up a little bit short. Some players have mostly come up a little bit short this year. Calvin Heimburg played great, but has come up a little bit short of actually winning. Now, you look at Ricky, there's some clunker rounds in there. Final round of DDO, 1034 rated. That's below his level. Second round of Masters Cup, 1013 rated. 1027 at the third round of Masters Cup. Those are a little bit shaky, I guess. And same thing here. Like final round, 1031 rated. It's not bad, but it's not Ricky's level either. He shot 3 strokes worse than the day before. If he shoots a 57 again, he's probably going to win this tournament. So it's that he's paired really good, really, really strong rounds with more mediocre ones. Whereas 2 months ago, he was stringing them together back to back to back, great rounds, and he was winning a lot. So I do think it's fair to say that he's no longer the favorite, although I am worried about people overreacting to a little bit of variance and not saying, okay, but wait a minute, this has still been one of the best winners of the season, and he's playing on favorable courses, and he just shot one of the hot rounds, and has clearly showed on both courses that he can be extremely competitive and shoot very strong, 1050 plus rated rounds. To me, that's enough to feel really confident in Ricky's ability, and he may well still end up at the top of my picks.
So the one thing I want to add to this on the Ricky discussion real quick is because when you look at the stats of where he finishes, 2019 second, 2018 first, 2017 first, it's clear to see why Ricky would be the favorite. I want to point out a few stats that are pretty interesting from those tournaments, though. 2019, Ricky in round 2 shoots a 999 rated round. Terrible.
Oh, that's terrible.
By Ricky standards, terrible. It's at the Fort, where we're playing 3 rounds for everyone. Just real quick on the world schedule, MPO this year is going to be, and tentatively, they say this may be subject to change, but Mulligan's, Fort, championship round 5 at the Fort. FPO, Fort, Mulligan's, championship round at the Fort. So we're playing 3 rounds on the Fort. Ricky shot in 2019 a 999 rated round at the Fort. I think that that's bad enough. And we always talk 5 rounds is enough time that a mediocre round, a 1030 rated round, for example, isn't necessarily going to hold you out of contending at Worlds over a 5-round tournament.
Right.
If someone strings together 5 great rounds, then it may be. But I think it's fair to say a lot of these players are going to have one round that is a bit below what their standards are. 999, I think, is bad enough to disqualify you from contention, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. And I don't know if Ricky will do that again. 2018, when Ricky got his second win, it took, and this was when it was a Pro Tour event, in round 3, an 1109 rated round to get the victory.
And that was on the Fort?
That was on the Fort. So boy, we know Ricky can do it.
That's crazy.
But that's fire. That is such a good round. Both of those mean that, I don't know, like Ricky is great on these courses. I believe so.
I feel like the ace would definitely help you on your way to an 1100 plus rated round.
That or throwing like Eagle at Memorial. Apparently, those are the 2 quick conditions in which you get an 1100 rated round. My point is Ricky's history, even though the results are good, is mixed, and I'm curious to see what happens at a PGA Major at the World Championship and what that means for Ricky's chances.
Adam Hammes. So again, overreaction or something we actually learned. Adam Hammes should be considered 5th in the world right now. Obviously not in rating, but like in where his stature is in the power rankings, for example, after his win at the Resistance Discs Open.
I don't know who challenges him for that. I really don't. James Conrad took 6th today or this weekend at Utah Open. Nikko LaCastro, nod to the over-under bid. Charlie brings it up to 2-1. I thought 7th was a pretty generous line.
You would have bet me money. I should.
I would have. You should have. You really
on it next time.
You really should have taken my money.
Where did he finish?
I think it was 11th.
Oof. Future world champion LaCastro is going to have to step it up.
So, I mean, Nico's been in that discussion. We haven't seen enough of Chris Dickerson. He's played well when we saw him, but haven't seen him for a while, so it's hard to... That's the one person left who I say could maybe take that away from Adam Hammes. And I think this weekend might be the weekend to kind of finish that decision of who we put in the top 5.
Guy is hitting his stride at the right time. I mean, the guy... So first of all, Adam Hammes clearly top 10 in the world right now. Clearly. No question about it. I think the big thing is, like, we haven't, like you said, we haven't seen a lot of Chris Dickerson. But I think if I was going to, like, just kind of lay out odds for Worlds, probably I'm going to have Chris Dickerson above Adam. Although both have strong skill sets for these courses, where it does seem to me like putting is going to weigh a little heavier than it does at a lot of these long distance-based courses. We're not getting that at Worlds. Mulligan's has some distance required, of course, but it's not going to stretch out these. It's not 12,500 feet, right? We're not going to see Eagle and Simon and Calvin outperforming a ton because of their distance advantage I think putting is going to be one of the big separators. I think we saw that with Emerson Keith this weekend. So, and we also saw it in FPO where Paige Pierce, because of her putting, pulled away and won easily over Katrina Allen. So players like Adam Hammes, Chris Dickerson, I mean, when you think of great putters on tour, those two guys are probably first to mind. I mean, I don't know who else you put up there. I mean, shout out to Yeti, but he's not really on the tour anymore. But so I think, does Hammes get to fifth for me? No, I think I still give Chris Dickerson the nod just because of the past historical performance. Adam Hammes hasn't had to go through the gauntlet yet of being in a position to win at a major, at a world championship. So I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But I definitely think he's a clear. He has a chance to win, and I don't know that I would have said that at the beginning of the season. I mean, he's just flashed so much potential, but he's finally, finding all facets of the game right now and obviously playing great.
Agreed. All right. Next take. Nobody is touching Paige next week.
Overreaction.
Okay.
Overreaction. I mean, I know she dominated this weekend, but I think that these courses, we're going to see Haley King be really competitive. I think we're going to see Ella Hansen be competitive. I think that Katrina's going to play better. I'm a little worried because, for her, it's always coming down to the putting green, 59% from C1X, and basically lost 9 strokes to Paige inside of circle 1 on the putting green when you look at the strokes gained, and that's the margin by which she lost the tournament. That's got to get better. As simple as that. You cannot shoot 59% at Worlds from C1 and have a chance. But I think it will get better. I don't think Paige is just going to walk off with this thing by 10 or 15 strokes. No. I think that Worlds is different. The pressure is different. The focus of the field is different. And so, no. I know she dominated this weekend, and we've seen that plenty of times before. Obviously the favorite, but I don't see a walk-off happening.
So one thing just for consideration, because you say you don't see her winning by 10 strokes. If Paige wins each round by 2 strokes, that's a double-digit victory for her. I'm
not saying it's not possible. I mean, it's just, I think the point you made about the fort earlier with Ricky shooting both a 999 rated round and an 1109 rated round on the same course, that shows you that it's got teeth, and that if you're off your game one day, it can really eat you up. So to me, I just think that it's just Worlds is different. I don't expect to see Paige just completely obliterate everybody. I mean, yeah, it could happen. She averaged 1,000 rated golf this weekend, and typically that's going to win you a tournament. But we've also seen other players on tour match that kind of performance, have that 1,000+ rated average over the course of the weekend. So obviously Paige gets a big advantage here with this tournament being longer. I think 5 rounds clearly plays to her advantage. She is easily the favorite. I find it hard to imagine me not picking her to win the tournament, but I don't expect it to be out of contention on the final round.
Okay. There it is.
All right. Kyle Klein is a dark horse contender to win the World Championships. Is that an overreaction, or do you think that's something we saw this weekend?
I think it's an overreaction. And I'm a big Kyle Klein fan personally. A big Kyle Klein fan. However, I think he played well this weekend. He's been playing well all year. I don't think that staying outside of top 5 even is an unrealistic possibility. But I don't think he's going to be in contention for the win. And I think the biggest reason I'm going to say that is probably experience. I think, just as you talked about how Worlds is different, that kind of focus, that kind of pressure, that kind of concentration, it's something that we've seen a lot from Kyle Klein in terms of other Elite Series events, but we've also seen some pretty poor finishes relative to the field from Kyle Klein as well, because he's a young player. He's young to tour. He's a young guy. And I think that pressure of Worlds and that consistency that's required over 5 rounds just means that maybe one round he's going to be off enough that I think it's going to keep him out of contention.
I do want to quickly make a correction. The 1100 plus rated round from Ricky was on Mulligan's, not Fort.
Was it on Mulligan's?
So,
okay.
Yeah, and I think I knew that in my brain, but I didn't say it. He has the course record, I think, still.
Okay.
Course record, 44.
You're right. I forgot they did championship. They usually do championship Fort. That year they did it Mulligan's.
Right, and this year they did it on Fort.
Yep.
Totally. Okay, so as for Kyle Klein, look, let me just give you the facts. The best round this weekend on Mulligan's was a 47. That was Ricky and Emerson shot that in round 1. Kyle Klein shot a 48. And guess who had the best round of the weekend on the Fort? It was Kyle Klein. He shot an 8 under 55. Nobody else matched that. So he is showing elite level ability on both courses. That's one of the things I said last week. I told you I'm going to watch for who plays the courses well, even if they don't have the consistency, even if they don't win the tournament. And he had a bad second round. It's as simple as that. He had a bad second round. That's why he didn't win. But the fact that he laid down hot round at the Fort, 1 stroke off the hot round at Mulligan's, to me is a very good sign for his ability to go out there and truly compete to win. Do I think he is going to win? I do not. I do not. As we saw with Emerson Keith in 2019, it doesn't matter how good you're playing, you still have to beat all those 1050 guys. And it's really, 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 really hard to do that because they've done it a million times and you've never done it. So when it's final day and you're up 1 stroke and you've got Paul Macbeth and Ricky Wysocki breathing down your neck, it's just really hard to beat those guys in that situation. I think there's more than just like you can play well. Like, yeah, when it's low stress Utah Open and it's a B tier, sure. Can you match that when there's a big gallery and the pressure and all of the other things that go along with World Championships? Well, I mean, I think Kyle Klein's got a very bright future. I don't expect him to win, but I do think he can be a contender. I think we saw that in his scores this weekend.
All right. I'm interested to see if you're right. The even par round 2 is not great. So
that's fair. It's not. But he figured it out in round 3 and shot 8 under. So
He did. See if he continues to figure it out.
Practice rounds. These are practice rounds. Okay, James Conrad. Can he get a podium finish at Worlds?
Here's why I think this has a possibility. These 2 courses we've talked a lot about are not that long. Mulligan's, if I remember right, between 7,000 or 8,000 feet is what we learned on our subscriber bonus a couple weeks ago. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. We get to talk to Jade Sewell, tournament director and designer of the Fort and co-designer of Mulligan's, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Given that it's not that long, the tee to green separation wasn't huge. Emerson Keith, 10. Ricky Wysocki, 11. Kyle Klein, 10. There's your podium, right? Nothing compared to what we see at a lot of those courses where distance really matters and it's 27, 23, 22, above 20 strokes gained tee to green. You know who the leader, though, in strokes tee to green was this weekend?
JC?
James Conrad. Yes, it was, at 13.82. So he had 2 full strokes on Ricky, who was in second, with strokes gained tee to green. Here's why I think James Conrad has a chance this weekend. His circle 2 per gain strokes strokes gain circle 2, not tee to green, negative 2.58.
Whoa,
it's not James Conrad. Those aren't his numbers. And if we think Ricky's going to putt better this weekend, which this week I definitely think is going to be the case, I think it's fair to say that James Conrad's going to do better than 7% in circle 2 putting. he cleans that up a little bit, I think he can be in the mix. I think he really can.
It's the same. It's like the inverse of Emerson Keith. Like, do you think he's going to regress to the mean, or do you think that this is a sign that he's a little off right now? I mean, you look at the numbers, and it's very not James Conrad-esque. 79% from Circle 1X, 7% from Circle 2. I mean, this dude regularly hits like 50% of his putts from Circle 2 at events. And so let's take a look at the season numbers, right? So 79 and 7 on the season, he's 85 and 27. That's maybe a little below where he's been in the past, but I think that's maybe understandable given that, he's switching bag this year. But actually, I mean, it's very comparable to the previous season, 80 and 33 in 2020. And in 2019, he was 85 and 29. So again, if he regresses to the mean, yes, I agree. I mean, you love to see the numbers off the tee, and it's not like you expect James Conrad to have poor putting performances on a regular basis. It's rare. I mean, he's one of the better putters on tour. But it's just like, do you think it's coming right now? I mean, hopefully he spends some time working on the putt over this next couple of weeks. I'm sure that he will. You know, we have 8 days until Worlds from when we're recording this, so plenty of time to practice. Podium finish, I can see it, but I'm not going to pick it. That's where I'm at with it.
Okay. All right. Last hot take. So, little quick backstory. I have a local B tier back up in Helena when I lived in Montana. Just at our local course, nothing special. Just good, fun tournament, local league guys.
Love it.
Right? Great time. Advanced is won by a guy named Cade Filamahala, who shot something close, over 1,000 rated, 17 under, to just absolutely smoke the field. Well, Cade Filamahala is more than just a B-tier wonder and has been playing really well lately, including shooting one off the hot score at Utah Open at Mulligan's with a 48. Here's the kicker. Cade Filamahala is still retaining his AM status and is registered to play Junior Worlds this year. Junior Worlds, not AM Worlds, Junior Worlds. So here's the question for you. Still a teenager. Cade Filamahala cannot drink. He cannot rent a car. Like, none of this stuff. Cade Filamahala is young. Do you think Cade Filamahala has the chance of being one of the next big things?
Okay, look, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I had never heard of his name until Goat Hill, I want to say. I think it was Goat Hill. And when you actually sit down and you look at how he's been playing, I mean, I think you have to at least say to yourself, wait a minute, this guy is going to be something else. I mean, we've seen it before. Players, young players stepping up, and I mean, he's not even on the page for UDisc Live. I searched it twice. He's not here. Okay, let me see. He's not on the main front page anyway. No, so check it out. At OTB Open, tied for 15th. Ultra long course. He was 4th at Goat Hill, so that's my memory was right on that. At Utah Open, 16th. Okay, and when you look at his stats, I mean, you see some real promise. He was 6th Circle 1 in regulation, 8th in Circle 2 in regulation. Look, I mean, I don't know a lot about Cade. Do I think that this results and what we're seeing from him suggests that he could be a future superstar? Absolutely. Absolutely. He was bogey free at Mulligan's, 10 under. Unbelievable. Didn't play as well at the Fort. Had, got some birdies, but also took some big numbers. But I think that, the way you're seeing this kid come out and compete and finish inside the top 25 at, long distance bomber pro tour courses. Yeah, I see a bright future. 100%.
It's exciting to watch.
All right. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of this segment. We are going to take a quick break. Do you think we're overreacting? Let us know. Upshot at ultiworld.com. We want to hear from you. We get ready for our episode previewing Worlds coming up later this week. We'll be on our Thursday show, getting you ready for the World Championships, making our picks, the whole shebang. Looking forward to getting into it. When we come back, we're going to go inside the circle. Stay with us. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. If you got a Pound bag, you can also get a Pound Ambassador patch out now. You want to rep your favorite Pound carrying pro? Well, they've got patches, $10, 100% of the profit from each one sold goes directly to the ambassador. So whether you want to rep Nate Sexton, Kona Panis, Jeremy Coling, Lisa Fakis, Dustin Keegan, Scott Withers, or Zoe Andike, they've got the patches up on pounddiscgolf.com. Go check them out.
Welcome back to the Upshot. It's now time for our segment Inside the Circle, where we're going to hit some of the big headlines from this past week in disc golf. First, though, we want to make a correction from our last Inside the Circle. Macy Walker at the Tennessee State Championships 2 weekends ago actually won by 9 strokes over Heather Young, not 1 stroke. So that was an error that we made on last episode of the Upshot.
Yeah, sorry, Macy. We're trying to take away from your for your strong win there. 9 strokes, very impressive over Heather Young.
Indeed. Next up, Kristen Tatar and Silver Lot flying to the United States from Croatia today. They spent their 2 weeks outside the Schengen zone and should be able to make it over to the United States. So they should be in the mix for Worlds in this upcoming week. Keep an eye on their Instagram story. Make sure everything runs smooth.
I am so excited for Kristen Tatar to play at Worlds. I mean, truly, we have nothing to go off of, really. I mean, she's been dominating in Europe. You know, you asked me earlier, like, is Paige Pierce going to run away with it? Well, I mean, we didn't even talk about Kristen Tatar, and we're going to talk about some of the players who haven't really been around competing that much, but are going to be at the World Championships that we need to be thinking about. We'll do that on our Thursday preview show, but I will just say she can absolutely win, and it's great. I know we don't have a ton of European representation, which is a big bummer, but I'm glad that she's been able to make it over.
Agreed. Speaking of Europe, though, Vaino Makala beat Seppo Payu by 1 stroke at the Turku, on Prodigy Disc Pro Tour. Yep. In FPO, Evelina Salonen beat Henna Blumroos by 8 strokes.
Nice to see Europeans starting to get to play some disc golf. Still mostly very local. This is almost all Finnish players at this tournament, maybe entirely all Finnish players. But you know, some familiar names up at the top of the leaderboard.
I'm excited to see them come back to the United States. Mix up Worlds, mix up other big events. So
I can see it by the end of the season.
I hope so. USDGC and Throw Peak Championship. That'd be exciting to watch.
Agreed.
Next piece of news. If you've watched social media or the coverage from this past weekend of the Utah Open, there was a point where Nikko threw a shot, kind of skips off the edge, looked like it should have been safe, and just really didn't get a favorable skip and ends up in the water. So Nikko turns and kicks his mini and ends up hitting a gatekeeper film crew member with his mini after he kicked it. And of course, Nikko quickly apologized, but it's still noteworthy relative to the way other sports treat it. And this is something that we saw actually last year at the US Open in tennis, where Novak Djokovic, a top tennis player for those who don't follow the sport,
just won the French Open.
Yes. Dominant. I mean, he's one of the Macbeths kind of in the sense of the tennis world. In frustration, turns and hits a ball and hits a line judge in the neck and was immediately disqualified from the U.S. Open. He was in early quarterfinals round, I believe, very early in the tournament, and is immediately disqualified because of that action. Charlie, do you think that we're having disciplinary issues, or what is the disciplinary wing of the PDGA, this being a B tier, but also of the Disc Golf Pro Tour? Does that need to be something that's stepped up a little bit, especially coming into Worlds?
This is an interesting conversation. I mean, obviously, people are going to take this and like really run it through their Nikko lens. Nikko already known for being a bit of a hothead. A lot of people don't really care for Nikko's style, and he kicked his mini. We've seen plenty of players kick their mini, throw their mini. I mean, we just watched Eagle McMahon spike his mini at 100 miles an hour into his bag, last week at the Portland Open before eventually going on to win the tournament. Eagle actually talked about it in a vlog, like that he gets very emotional on the course and he's trying to do a better job of controlling that, but like basically said, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to, because like that's just how I am. And I truly don't believe that Nikko meant to hit the cameraman. Absolutely not. I mean, he just turned around and kicked the mini, and it happened to hit the cameraman, which is very similar to Djokovic getting mad and hitting the ball and hitting the line judge. There were a lot more questions about whether Djokovic was actually trying to hit the line judge or not. But Djokovic also immediately apologized, but he got the ejection immediately and was disqualified from the tournament outright at a major. What should the policy be here in this kind of situation? I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there's just basically, I would say that right now disc golf is sort of lawless. There's like no enforcement of rules, and like players are often making spotting decisions from 300 or 400 feet away, where they're like, yeah, I think it went out of bounds right here. I mean, how many times have we watch a player be like, yeah, like I'm OB inside the circle, like I make my putt now. Like, even though they were so far away that how could they possibly have seen? I mean, to me, this is like becoming a bit of a problem for disc golf, that like, it's not that there aren't rules. Obviously there are rules. The PDGA has all kinds of rules. And then, in fact, there may be something in there about, striking somebody with a disc or a mini or whatever. And there's like an actual policy for something like that. The thing is, this stuff's hardly ever enforced, including by the players themselves. I don't really know what the solution is. I'm not sure that Nikko should get DQ'd for kicking his mini and hitting the cameraman, but to me, like, disciplinary action in that situation, probationary period, something would not be inappropriate. Certainly something like this happening in another sport, you would probably see an instant ejection.
And at the very least, oftentimes when things like this happen, I think the NBA probably is the most notable of this, even in cases where ejections don't necessarily happen, retroactive fines or suspensions all the time. And I think then that it's hard to watch our sport and try and say that it's on the same professional level, because we do have some mechanism built in. We have courtesy violations, but if this isn't a courtesy violation and doesn't get called as one, I don't know what would. I truly don't know what you have to do to get a courtesy violation over hitting a spectator or media member with a mini because you kicked it in frustration and anger. And
it doesn't matter that it was unintentional.
Right.
Like, you can't do that. Like, that would be a flagrant. I mean, it would be an ejection in pretty much any other sport.
Yeah.
If somebody threw the ball at an NBA game and hit a fan because they threw it angrily, they would get ejected.
Absolutely.
For sure. And fined. Now, look, we don't have to pretend that we're the NBA, and a mini is not a basketball. So I don't want to, speaking of overreactions, I don't want to overreact to this situation, but I do think that there should be more codified just rules in the game. I mean, people talk about foot faults, and it's just it's almost a meme at this point that people are foot faulting, and there's video footage of people stepping 2 feet away from their mini, or stepping on their mini, or stepping over the tee box, and it's literally never called. What's the point of having the rule if we're never going to call any of it? And the players don't want to call it because they don't want to be the bad guy on the card. So if they're not going to call it, we have to have somebody call it. The time violations, another Nikko thing. That at least was addressed informally. But, I mean, I want the structure of the rules to be more clear and consistent, because right now it's just ad hoc, and it's annoying.
What last question, I guess, on this point. What do you think is in the power of the Pro Tour? And granted, this was not a Pro Tour event. This was a B-tier Utah Open. But what do you think is in the power of the Pro Tour to create those kind of, not even necessarily in play, but just courtesy rules or basic decorum and enforce that regardless of the PDGA and what they may do relative to rules and enforcement mechanisms.
But I mean, again, the rules are in place. They're just not ever implemented or followed. I shouldn't say ever, but like rarely.
Sure.
I mean, of course, the Pro Tour can make their own policies around this kind of stuff and enforce them, including after the fact. Like, you know, if video like this surfaces from an event, I think you should be able to say, oh yeah, like that, you can't do that. We're gonna give you a warning, and if something like this happens again, you could get DQ'd from the event or something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be like instant ejection kind of situation. You know, if you throw a driver at somebody intentionally, then yes, you should get ejected. Kicking your mini and having it happen to hit somebody, I don't know. It's like a little bit more of a gray area for me. But I want to see at professional tournaments, I don't care who runs them, PDGA, DGPT, major, whatever. I want to see rules get enforced. And like, just establish what the rules are and enforce the rules. And I mean, long term, I really do want to see, you know, professional spotters, professional, you know, I don't know what to call them, judges. What do they call them in golf?
Marshals?
Marshals.
Yeah.
Right? We need marshals on holes to make rulings. In my view, and I understand the reasons that we don't have that. It's money. It's money and capacity. And like enough people with enough rules knowledge. But long term, we got to start thinking about how we're going to get there, because right now it's just like Wild West.
Yep. And it's not a good look for disc golf. Final point on Inside the Circle. Disc Golf Pro Tour has announced a Celebrity Pro-Am that will be held at Ben Askren's private course. That'll feature some of our top players in disc golf, along with some of the big celebrities that were noted during the pandemic and in recent times. Charlie, you just did an article on this story. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about this tournament coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it all shakes out. It's going to be on Tuesday, July 13th. It's at, as you mentioned, Ben Askren's Funky Farms course on his property up near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's going to happen after the Des Moines tournament on the Pro Tour, and then I think it's about a 6-hour drive from there to Milwaukee. It'll be on a Tuesday, and a lot of the big celebrity names that we know about that play disc golf are committing to come to this. Andrew Zimmern from the Travel Channel, huge disc golf fan. I mean, I talked to him for about 15 minutes last week, and I mean, he was just gushing about how much he loves disc golf, how much he wants to see the sport grow, how excited he is to go and be, you know, playing alongside the professional players. He watches all the coverage, so he'll be there. Dylan Cease, the White Sox pitcher that was just in the news for he bombed in the outfield of a pregame. He bombed a driver like into the dugout of the like through the door of the dugout of the bullpen, and people were like a hole in one. So he's going to be there because it's going to be the All-Star break, so it's perfect timing. And he lives in Chicago, so it's just an hour up the road to go to Milwaukee. Let's see, Big Cat from Pardon My Take, the podcast host that Brody and Paul sent a bunch of stuff to. He's going to be there. Invites have gone out to some PGA Tour pros like Bubba Watson and Bryson DeChambeau, who've been in the news recently for their interest in disc golf. There's not a full guest list at this point, and the Pro Tour hasn't announced players that are going to be there yet. I think they're looking at doing 8 players and 8 celebs, and they're going to stream it. And there's going to be a $5,000 charity giveaway for the winner of Best Shot Doubles. So some format stuff is still in the works, but we're truly going to see top professional disc golfers going up, with, I guess, mostly B and C list celebrities. But I think it's a pretty cool thing that this is even a possibility, that we've reached a point in disc golf where you can legitimately have famous people who do not play disc golf excited to show up to an event in order to play alongside the best disc golfers in the world. That to me is pretty cool.
Agreed. I'm excited to watch it. And that concludes our Inside the Circle for this week.
All right. And that is also going to bring us to the end of our show. Looking forward to be back with you on Thursday as we hit our Worlds preview episode. Really excited to start breaking everything down, look at the full field, who's showing up that hasn't even been on tour yet this year. There's some of those folks, and start to really try to handicap this event. I'm going to look around for some betting lines. I don't know if there's anything out there. We need DraftKings to get on it. By the way, before we sign it off, the American Ultimate Disc League, the Ultimate Frisbee semi-pro org, has a deal with DraftKings. You can go in and you can play free pools on DraftKings every week, and they're streaming games on their Twitch and their YouTube channel. And I believe that things are in the process right now with the various states that allow mobile sports wagering to get Ultimate Frisbee, game lines up into the app. So there's real interest there from DraftKings in sort of alternative sports, including Ultimate Frisbee. They also have deals with, I think, there's lacrosse stuff. There's cornhole. I think this is a real opportunity for disc golf. I mean, to me, it's just an absolute no-brainer. Like, one of these big gambling companies is going to step into the disc golf world. I imagine that the Pro Tour folks are already thinking about this, but again, I think this is just like a huge opportunity for disc golf. Having actual legal gambling, at least in the states that allow it, where you can literally bet your money on who you think is going to win Worlds.
I mean, I think our over-under line is plenty sufficient for everybody, Charlie.
And we'll have an over-under for you on Thursday. I win this week. Nikko finishing below 7.5 at the Utah Open. 2-1, Josh still leads the over-under contest. All right, that's going to do it for our show this week. Today, I can't stop saying this week. I really want to say this week. We've had some requests, by the way, Josh, for us doing our In the Bag. So let's hold that thought for a few weeks from now, and we'll get our bags out and we'll do a little In the Bag all right. for you and for me.
Okay, I like it.
All right. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week. We'll talk to you on Thursday right here on the Upshot.